Okay, our responsive classes are in place in the CSS. You can tell it's CSS because it's full of these curly brackets and octothorpes, and you don't see any of those in your HTML. You have to be able to distinguish what's CSS and what's HTML. HTML has these little carets, these greater and lesser signs. The CSS mostly has curly brackets, octothorpes, dots, and things like that. Look at the colors. The colors will also give you a clue not only that this is CSS, but when something goes wrong. Alright, so let's create our structure. I'm going to go into the wrapper, make sure it's between the opening wrapper and the closing wrapper. I'm just going to click. It has to click. You have to see the insertion point right there. I'm going to go to my insert. I'm going to do a div. And because this is going to go all the way across, I'm going to pick Goose 12. And this will be my header. So new CSS rule. Okay, this document only, watch out. You want it in your style CSS. Okay, and we don't have to do anything here. We don't need to do the box because the width is determined by the class. Alright, so there it is. I'm going to hit OK. That's going to be my header div. First time writes the CSS, second time it writes the HTML. So there it is. You can see that header is created. Alright, now I'm going to do my nav, making sure I go underneath the header. Okay, I'm going to go and click this. I'm going to insert a div. The div's got to go all the way across, so it's Goose 12. I'm going to call it nav. I'm going to create a new CSS rule. Look, style CSS is there. And that's basically all I have to do there because our button bar is going to push things down. So there doesn't have to be a width because that's determined by the class Goose 12. And I don't have to put a height because my button bar is going to push it down. So that's that. I'm going to hit OK. First time writes the CSS, second time it writes the HTML. Now you can use white space to your advantage just by separating them so you can see what's going on. You can see that it also made the nav. Now even though the rule isn't there, it doesn't matter. You might need it later, and so you might as well just leave it there. Alright, now I'm going to go back, and now I'm going to do my section. Okay, I'm going to insert, make sure my insertion point is well underneath. Here's my div class. This is going to go 8 across, 8 columns. So there's the 8. I'm going to call this section. New CSS rule. It's in my style CSS. The only thing I have to do here is go to box and float left. Okay. And then after that gets written, I'm going to give myself some space so I don't get confused. Then I'm going to go down, make sure the insertion point is under the section. I'm going to insert a div. This is going to be 4 because if the section is 8, that leaves 4 columns to make 12. And I'm going to call this bright bar. Okay, so I'm going to do my CSS rule, make sure it's in the style CSS. And the only thing I have to do is go to the box and float left. And OK. There we go. Then all we have to do is the footer now. So I'm going to give myself some space. I'm going to insert the div. Yes, go. Okay, class, it's going to go all the way across. So we're going to give a 12, and the ID will be footer. And not only that, we're going to write the CSS, the style CSS. We might want to have a background color, so I'm just going to pick a dark blue. No reason for that, but you can pick your color there. And since we're going to put some text in there, you might want to go to type and maybe make it white so that you'll be able to see it. So if you have a dark color, you might want to do that. You might want to go to block and do text align center. And there it is. Here's my footer. First time it writes the CSS. Second time it writes the HTML. I'm going to look at the style, and there it is. Right there, color, white, background, that dark blue, text align center. So that's my basic structure at this time. If I was to look at it inside the browser, it won't look like much. So we want to save. Looks like I didn't save something. Let's see. And there it is. Not much to look at, I have to admit, but everything is currently in place. And so we'll do more on the next one.